Already play it.
Hey everybody, welcome to Love and Relo, the voice of the relocation industry. I am your host, Ben Cross, and it is Friday, and it may or may not be late where you are right now, but we are talking about Brexit. This is the end of Brexit week, and I've got some experts. I'm going to call you experts. We're just going to go with that, all right? I'm a talk show host. You're an expert. We're going to do this. Vivi Cahyadi, CEO and co-founder of AltoVita. How are you, Vivi?
I'm great. Thank you for having me, Ben. And looking forward to speaking to Sean.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. And Sean Worker, T5 Strategies. Sean, how are you?
It's a beautiful late night in Barcelona, so it's good to see you, Ben.
Yeah, awesome. And Vivi, where are you? Just for the record there, for the watchers.
London, Kensington, precisely.
Okay.
South Kensington, just 2 blocks away from the Natural History Museum.
Can you provide your home address for all of us? And I'm just kidding. Hey, if you're watching this right now, give yourself a shout out. Let me know who you are, where you are, what you're doing. If it's Friday night where you are and you're having a little something to drink, let me know about that too. Love to hear your questions right now about Brexit. We're going to talk about how businesses are, kind of moving into the next chapter, what kind of strategies they're employing. Sean's got some really great stuff on that. Vivi's got some really interesting stuff on companies and some kind of specific stories about companies that are moving and relocating due to this. We got people checking in right now. Keep those coming. Hit that like button as well. The show is way better when you guys are involved. So leave your comments and your questions for us. We will answer them as they come in. Cindy, what's up, Cindy? Hi from Dallas. Cindy is becoming one of my favorite people. We do a weekly happy hour with the Lisa Fontana organizer. Shout out to Lisa at Quicken Loans. And Cindy and I don't know. I feel like you're my spirit animal, Cindy. Stephen Meyer, what up, driver? Out in Alexandria, Virginia. Be safe out there, buddy. Tumultuous time right now in Alexandria. Doug Barnett. Hello, Ben. Happy New Year to all. What's up, Doug? I'm sorry, Douglas. Proper Douglas. Let's see here. We've got Tim Quirk checking in. Hello, Vivi, Sean, Ben, and Stacy for a second from #Western New York. Got some random chimes. Sounds like a train set, perhaps. I don't know. No, these are the jokes, people. Come on. Let's mix it up here. Stacy Huff, happy Friday, everyone. Let's see. Stephanie from Jacksonville coming to us. What's up, Stephanie? Nicole McGarvey, hi from Colorado. Hey, Nicole. Love to hear your questions, Nicole, Stephanie, Stacy, Tim, Douglas, Lynn, Glenn. What's up, Lynn? It's been a minute. Hello, Ben, Sean, and Vivi. Lynn, I think you're up in Seattle, if I recall. Portland? I don't know. Let me know. Let's see. We got people. Hello, Sean, LinkedIn user. Always the phantom LinkedIn user. Let's see here. This is great. I know. You never know who. Mario Cunningham. Hey, Ben. Happy New Year, Mario, with Legacy Transit Lines out of Fayetteville, Arkansas. Woo Pig Suey, Mario. In the warehouse today, receiving shipments. Hey, do not operate a forklift while watching Love and Relo. That is just best practice. Alan King. Hi, all tuning in from Germany. I've made all Brexit shows this week. Yes, you have, Alan, and you've been a wonderful contributor. Let me know what kind of questions and comments you have. Cindy is laugh crying right now. This is great. Jamie Massler, cheers from Chile, Mississippi. What's the weather, Jamie, in Mississippi? I'm moving down south. There's snow on the ground up here in Michigan. Let's see, Sandra. What's up, Sandra? It's good to see you. Zach, there you go, from sunny Florida. Time to get busy with some Love and Relo. Checking in from Amelia Island. We know Zach, and we're jealous. So, all right, without further ado, Vivi, what's going on with Brexit from your point of view? Let's just hop into it. I'm going to kind of like open it up and just tell me some of the things you're hearing and some of the stories you're hearing about businesses and how they're handling it.
I mean, we're in Love and Relo, so I'll talk about relocation.
Yeah.
So obviously, there's a ton of flow because of Brexit in and out of the UK. So it's not just exodus out of the UK, but actually into the UK as well. The economics obviously more attractive going out of the UK because you need access to that 360 million people in on the continent that with Brexit, the UK is losing. And I guess I'll talk a bit more about financial services
Well, I want to stop you right there, and I want to look at that premise that you just kind of laid out there, that it's more financially advantageous to be moving out of the UK for businesses because they have access to talent. Can we go into that?
Business.
Yeah, just a little bit more too, and I want to hear Sean's thought on that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Do you? And I'll just ask Sean. Sean, do you see businesses taking that viewpoint that it is more advantageous to be moving out of the UK, whether it be access to talent or other financial reasons?
So let me pivot a little bit. There's puts and takes and ins and outs that are going on. So that's a huge general statement. So I may not quite take the bait, Ben. So a couple of things, not quite, mostly though. So, when you look at it on balance, we're not too sure exactly what the movements are until we get about 6-7 months into this. When you go back 3 or 4 years ago, there was a reaction in the financial community that basically hedged their bets, and it was Brussels, Frankfurt, Paris, Dublin predominantly, then some Luxembourg, Amsterdam, and they moved people around just to hedge their bet. I think probably what we probably need to be a little bit more aware of, and I'm going very macro here, is roughly about 3 years ago, the investment capital in Britain started to decline on a year-over-year basis by about 6 billion in business capital, and it's kind of largely stayed at that lower 40 billion a year, as opposed to 50-ish, and it's been like that for the last 4 years. That's underinvestment in Britain relative to its relative trend line. So this kind of slowing down in investment started a long time ago and hasn't recovered yet. So are businesses leaving, or they got bigger advantages? I'd say they're more hedged right now before they see the opportunities. And in this sort of environment where the impact of Brexit is unknown, I would just say this, that as of December 31st in January, on the morning of January 1st, there are businesses that have had a sigh of relief to say that there's actually a sense of, we now know. We don't know exactly everything, but we now know that there is trade between, as Vivi put it, one of the largest economies in the world, which is the European Union. So too early to tell, but there's pent up demand and there's pent up exercising that companies need to do to just survive, let alone that they put on hold because they just didn't know. So, this would be a very interesting conversation to have again in about 6 months with good data. So short, too early to tell. I think anybody who's in the Relo business is probably pretty well up to date on who's been moving and not. And I'm sure you've had that on the show as to what the movement structures is and the movement volume. And that'd be great to actually talk about.
Yeah, and we're going to hear a little bit more about that. So Vivi, I kind of sidetracked you a little bit, but kind of finish your thought there on who's moving and why.
Yeah, I was gonna. Look, I wanted to focus a bit more on the UK and what's really going on here inside, because I think I'm the only one who's actually in the country actually being affected. So I want to talk a bit more about financial services, and why that is the case is obviously services is a big part of the UK economy, and financial services is a major part of that. And how the UK, because of Brexit, is consciously given up its passporting rights to cross-border trading. And a lot of the relocations related to sales and trading had already happened. I think when you asked me to speak on Love and Relo a couple of weeks ago, I told them it's too late. I mean, the move has already happened.
I'm like, Vivi, I got a great opportunity. Come on, Love and Relo, tell us about Brexit from a UK point of view. You're like, why? It's over. We've been talking about this for a year. There's nothing left to talk about. And I was so dejected. And I was like, I hope that's not true because I got a whole week planned. And Vivi just popped my balloon just now. But I mean, so what is still going on right now? You're right. A lot of activities been going. But what? Exactly
what Sean was saying. There's a lot of uncertainty, right? So people, a lot of banks, for sure, financial firms had hedged their bets, and therefore they moved their people first, particularly when it is related to sales and trading, because that's for sure is a hard line. But there is also one area called the equivalence, which include the multi-trillion-dollar trades of derivatives metal and energy. That's been still uncertain. I think the UK has now until about June 2022 to have access to this multi-billion dollar trades. But then
Can
again,
you tell us a little bit about what that means, though? Because I mean, you're throwing around trillions and billions, and it gets my attention. One day I aspire to care about these things. But tell me a little bit about like what you're actually talking about. Explain.
So equivalence is basically what the UK has or always had, and that is access to the 360 million people and market into the European Union. Because they're part of the EU, whatever they're selling, be it financial products or anything, in EU is basically allowed because they're part of the EU. With Brexit, that right has been taken away from the UK. So that's for sure with sales and trading. But there is one gray area, which is inside the equivalence. They now have until June 2022 to be able to trade derivatives. But at the same time, the UK is very much at the mercy of Brussels. So the UK can be notified within 30 days, hey, your access will cease in 30 days, and that's it. So a lot of firms would probably want to hedge their bets again, even for the derivative market. And that may cause another big exodus out of the UK. And I think I read somewhere EY had estimated about 7,500 moves that will come from this alone. And it's not only just the front office, the big earners, right? Because you can't just have a letterbox office in EU and be able to trade and have access to the EU. You need to have a proper office, sales, governance, compliance, so on and so forth. And so that 7,500 people probably is an underestimate in my point of view.
Is there a definition for like what a proper office means? I mean, you say it's not a letterbox or a post office box, would say, but I mean, is there like a standard? I mean, is that like a technical term, like a proper office, or I mean?
Well, we're talking about JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Citigroup. None of these guys have letterbox offices. JP Morgan has bought like huge office in Paris just because of Brexit. So yeah, I mean, unless we were talking about two men type of office who's trading financial product, then yeah, probably non-issue anyway. What are your thoughts, Sean?
I tend to pivot away. I'm a moving, it's over and done, right? So it's over now. So we can look back or we can look forward. And getting businesses, and a lot of my clients are in the UK. And this is about moving forward and letting it go. It's over. So now it's about how adapt and innovate in the space. So you got the domestic market. Let's kind of talk about that for a second. So, not more than 8 weeks ago, Honda had to stop plant production because they couldn't get parts in. Okay. Mm-hmm. Nissan are in the same boat. Well, they haven't moved yet. Now it's up to Britain to find ways to trade allegedly to other countries with freedom. So it's now moving on and accelerating that sort of relationships that ignites the industry again and the reinvestment in Britain. I don't know about, I'm not even going to comment on currency. All you can look back is that the pound has strengthened since the news. Mm-hmm. That's not actually good, depending on which way you think about that. But the net of it is about how does a business, I don't care what size you are, adapt and get on with it. And stop looking in the tea leaves. So, for instance, there's new trade deals that can be put together. Get involved with government and move it along. Get involved with your local commission that is promoting Manchester or Birmingham, and get on with it, because that's the only way we're going to be able to move through this, so that different as opposed to so it equalizes, so that we get back, because we are going to come through COVID. I know we don't like to talk about stuff like that, but the net of it is
what's COVID?
Here's COVID. If you compare vaccination rates, which is kind of interesting, at pace in Britain as opposed to many countries in Europe, they're about 1.5 million as of I think 2 or 3 days ago, versus Amsterdam that just got started, and the Netherlands got started. So they have a competitive advantage if they can vaccinate fast. So they get their
Well,
population moving again.
That's so interesting too, because we're talking about coming out of COVID, and it's almost like, to your point, it's almost who comes out of COVID first, right? Who's able to kind of resume business as usual or the new normal first seems to have an advantage. That's fascinating. I haven't heard that point. Vivi, you were making a point.
Well, I mean, the UK has been slow in reacting, or actually, the UK has not been actioning. They've only been reacting, and they've been reacting slow. I think approving the vaccination was the first thing that they've reacted fast. In fact, the first in the world. But I'm not sure how well that could be justified, considering the UK has the new strain now, and I think today or yesterday is recording the highest number of deaths ever since the pandemic started in March. And I think the US is not too different, to be honest.
Yeah, we're basically setting records.
Yeah, I think my point is that regardless, everybody's in. When you're rowing together and you're in the same boat with the same holes, either everybody sinks or everybody gets together and figures this out. So one way or the other, we won't feel the effect of the vaccination pace for a couple of months till we arc out of the Christmas break and winter trends. So I'm going out about 6 months here. So that, that's how far I'm going out.
Sean, I want to talk about that. I want to dive into that. Okay, Sean, I want to talk and kind of be proactive and kind of go through a little bit of a thought exercise, because there's a lot of business owners that are watching this right now, some within the UK, some in Europe, some here in the States. We've got some people checking in real quick. I want to honor those people, and then I want to come into a live thought exercise here on what we would do as CEOs to move out of this. So we got a few people checking in here. Yusuf, hi from Eindhoven, Netherlands. Will we discuss burnout like last night? Yeah, we got a little off track last night. Thank you for reminding me. I'd love to hear your questions though about Brexit. So please leave them as well. We'll get those. Matt Tobel, Sweet Home, tuning in from Chile, Chicago. What's up, Matt? Good to hear from you. Paula Holloway, shout out from Cleveland. What's up, Paula? Good to see you. Alan King says the UK has been terrible in reacting. Do you agree with that, Vivi?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Flat yes. Sean, do you agree with that?
The last thing I'm as a politician, I'm a move on guy. So whether they react, certainly they didn't respond, they reacted. And I think businesses can learn a lot from that. And sometimes we just take so much of our mindset from what government is saying versus what is really happening on the ground floor with your customers. And this is a real opportunity for people to define themselves in their businesses. It's really tough right now. It's miserable. But this too shall pass. It will pass. And so, if you're one of those fortunate companies that have a stronger than normal balance sheet, and not all companies are doing badly. I'm literally in a move myself, and Matthew James, who's a relocation company based in the UK, are busier than they've ever been. They're hiring, and they've got this north-south movement going on. But, they're doing some really interesting things about how they're attracting new customers and super slick systems and very good customer service. So, this is a place where you can define yourself and put your anchor in place and your cornerstone. And that's what customers are going to remember when they're coming out of this. I don't care if you're in retail. Some retail is doing well online, as we know. So there are sectors in this industry. What is Britain going to do with the technology that they've developed in medtech? That's a huge industry.
I want to talk about winners. I want to talk about moving on.
Winners yeah. Am I just being too optimistic now, Ben? Is that what you're telling me?
You're kind of killing the vibe. Okay, this is Brexit. We're all in mourning right now. We're all drinking too much. This is Brexit, okay. COVID, double crises. But yes, we can be positive. Just for the remainder of the last 41 minutes of the show, we'll be positive. But let's do this thought exercise. We got shout out here, Brian Rivers from First Tech Federal Credit Union. Stay tuned next week. We got a big announcement from Brian. It's gonna be a lot of fun. And then Ben Shiner, who is actually who is a business owner in the UK, involved in the relocation industry, owns a moving company, logistics company. And he was on Monday and really shared some interesting viewpoints and shook things up. Says, we found the vaccine, so we have a huge opportunity to vaccinate our population as long as this lockdown is adhered to, and we can get the logistics of the vaccine all over the country. Yeah, that goes to opportunity. Any comment on the vaccination, where we stand in UK? How you guys feel about that and the opportunity? We kind of touched on that a little bit, but any other further comments on that?
I'll let Vivi talk about that because I'm not in the UK right now. So,
well, I mean, well, you know, the Pfizer BioNTech vaccination is great, right? But it's also difficult to implement because it requires the cold storage, you know, at minus 90 degrees freezing point. Just happy that there is an alternative, which is the AstraZeneca vaccination. Just less, more low maintenance, and not only just the UK, but are able to vaccinate the whole world, because there are so many developing countries out there who will never be able to access the Pfizer vaccination. And it seems like, from what I have been hearing, they're able to produce the AstraZeneca vaccination at high capacity. I see many countries have been ordering high amounts of that. So I'm hopeful for this one, although the effective rate is still questionable. It's not as straightforward and as bulletproof as the Pfizer one, but at least a lot more countries can have access to it.
Makes sense. And are you guys seeing Moderna's vaccine over there? I think it had a slightly higher effectiveness rate than Pfizer. Full disclosure, I own some stock, so if we could just talk about that for about 30 minutes. Excellent.
Moderna is not as effective as the Pfizer, unfortunately, and also it doesn't give you.
You're killing me, baby.
It's widespread. But it's a US company, so yeah. It's good to support a home ground.
Let's see here. Sandra says, Sunshine Sean. She's coining a term here, a name for you. Sunshine Sean there in Barca. Sandra Claire, optimism is good and needed. And then Mindy Paulie's checking in from Weicker Corporate Housing. What's up, Mindy? So you know what, Sunshine Sean, let's go to you here with the optimism, okay? You know, you've led businesses, you consult with businesses, you provide strategies and ways forward. You're the move forward guy, the move on guy. I love that. And Vivi, you run a company in the UK. So between the two of you, let's come up with strategies. I'd love to hear some specifics on. Here it is, first week of January. What do you do if you are a UK company right now to take advantage of the situation as it is? Sean, would you give some specific ideas?
First of all, pause and just think, because this is a period where there's been a lot of others thinking for you, and you probably need to just breathe, think, get your team together in whatever forum is safe, and just ask them how they feel, and get a good pulse from in just your emotional intelligence side of just assessing the business as to where everybody's at, because you're not going to be able to put a strategy together unless you know where the hearts and minds of your team are. That's one. Do the same thing.
I like that though, Sean, and I just want to understand, like, specifically, how do you find that you do that when there's crises around you? And you know, it's very easy to be swept up in it. And obviously, there's fires always burning in businesses that need to be put out. How do you compartmentalize, or how do you do that? How do you find quiet to think?
So let's see. If you're teaching your kids at home, not so quiet. If your spouse is an essential worker and you're not, and you're at home and he or she is living a different life, this is a very loud space. But you can find 5 minutes to yourself to find a quiet space in your house and just pause. And then equally, leadership. Every meeting doesn't have to have an agenda. How about 10 minutes with no agenda and just chat about family and life and what's going on as an agenda item, ironically enough, so that you can get a pulse. You know, working from home, And, we have a book coming out, so it's kind of top of mind.
Plug the book.
Well, I'm not going to. Yeah, that's enough. That's not what this is about. So the importance of finding yourself as a manager on how to balance work from home and work from work, and the different skill sets required for both, is stressful in itself, and get some help for that. If you need to get a coach for that, or you need to talk to somebody who can help you through that, what's the HR department doing to adapt to that environment? You can't move forward unless your team is in alignment with you. It just won't happen. You can have all the strategies in the world, but if these are extraordinary times. So taking that time to spend time individually as well as in small groups, so that you hear people, not just the ones with big mouths, the ones that are quieter, obviously oftentimes are the ones that are observing, listening, and have assimilated these ideas, and really try and focus on the ones that are quiet as much as the ones that are loud. So number one is team. Number two, understand the rules. They've changed dramatically. Get involved in local government. Understand if there's trading changes, what your industry, where it ranks. Get involved in associations, so you're getting as much knowledge and connectivity as you can to beef up your knowledge of the new reality. It's not a new normal. This isn't reality. This is a new reality. So learn. And the third is spend time to think. Go ahead, Ben.
Well, I was going to say, I
heard that deep breath.
I know. I was thinking so much. I have so, and I'm the loud guy in the meeting. So here I go. No, but I understand getting involved in associations. I learn about that. I'm about that, right? I mean, but getting involved in politics, this is something that I've not done, nor did I really ever make a strategy. How does one how does one go about that?
Well, the great thing is that politicians technically are public servants. You have every right to meet your MP. And even if it's a small group of individual business owners from a town, it could be from Manchester or Birmingham, make an appointment if you can online to see at least a constituency office and ask them to funnel you information about Brexit and trading rules. Get on the right mailing lists and e-lists and e-chats, so that you're able to add that to a rather empty cauldron of knowledge, so you can take advantage of the opportunities. So for instance, maybe there's delegations that are being put forward to sell product for an area with other international markets that are now technically open. Well, get on that exploratory group. It's probably on Zoom or StreamYard or something else, but get involved. I don't mean running for political office, but take advantage of the infrastructure that's there and learn. It's _learn. So then you can inform your business, and then there's probably opportunities. I go back to medtech, manufacturing, what's happening in the property business, prop tech, travel tech is exploding as a result of the grand reshuffle that we're in right now.
I want to talk about that too, but just to finish this thought here, it's interesting. There's all these regional, global mobility groups and regional relocation groups, at least here in the U.S., and I'm sure there are in the U.K. and Europe as well. And that's one thing we never talked about doing. We always say, okay, let's go to Ford and host our meeting at Ford Motor Company, or let's go, to a sporting event, or let's do a, networking night or whatever. We've never talked about, hey, let's go visit our local government office and have a meeting there and actually understand what's going on. I think that's a fascinating strategy, and I really like that idea.
Well, this may be the first time in history that the politicians actually want you to participate. So, it's to a local councillor's benefit that business and local enablers like councillors are aligned to bring jobs back. I think one of the biggest opportunity, and probably one of the greatest responsibility of anybody that's involved in commerce, is to bring jobs back. And bringing jobs back to your own community is a great gift, because they are being eroded at a pace that has yet to be seen, and especially when we come off furloughs and suspended animation that is furlough payments. So it's going to get worse before it gets better. And if we learn anything from 2008, it took nearly 9 years for employment to return to pre-07 rates. So this is a long haul. So if we can commit to creating just one more job, and everybody does that, we recover faster. And that requires a community. that requires finance. It requires banking, local banking and local banks, not just everybody talking about the big five. And it requires politicians to get involved to help business navigate the conundrum. I mean, Kate Nichols is a great example at the British Hospitality Association, just awarded an OBE. Chip Rogers with the American Hotel Lodging Association. They did their jobs. They were lobbyists. And sometimes I think these organizations forget that their primary role is to be lobbyists. And they are to kick down the doors, to participate in government and participate to, there's no harm in asking for every grant you can get. People need cash to create jobs. That's really where the energy should go.
Interesting. And that's a great segue into to Vivi. I want to kind of pose this similar question to you. And don't forget, if you're watching right now, hit that like button, throw a comment in there. I want to hear your questions as well about Brexit, about strategy, about business strategy. I mean, how do we move forward? And come at it from an optimistic standpoint. I love the way that Sean has helped us frame this today. Sunshine Sean. Oh, I'm sorry, Sean. I know. It's great.
And I know Sandra, and Sandra is a very optimistic person too. So what can I do? I can't help it there.
Yeah. No. And so Vivi though, but as a CEO in the UK, owning a business, how are you looking at this right now? What are the opportunities? Let's stay strictly optimistic. The downsides are obvious and well publicized. But from an optimistic standpoint, what are you doing right now? Where do you see the opportunities?
I can't speak too much about sort of running an SME, because that's not what AltoVita is. AltoVita is a startup, so I can maybe share some insights about running a startup in the UK. Actually, the UK has a very friendly environment for technology companies, and I would encourage everyone to think about starting something in the UK. And that's
Is
something.
Is it hard to do that right now, and has it gotten more difficult with Brexit or less difficult?
Not at all. I don't think it's one area that's not been affected. It's one area that's been supported a lot by the government, obviously by the Mayor of London, so London and Partners, and also definitely nationwide in the UK as well. So I can talk about how you can use the UK as and really take advantage of that friendly environment. From investment point of view, there is a scheme called EIS, SEIS, which basically allows many angel investors, or any investor, individual investors, to claim back portions of their tax if they were to invest in startups. So that's clear. It's very, very favorable. So just to give you some examples.
There's tax credits for investing in startups in the UK.
Precisely. Let's say you have an income of, I don't know, 10K, and you pay taxes of 2K. And if you put 2K into a UK startup or UK environment, then you can claim back up to 1K back.
So 50% of your investment you can claim back on tax credit, yes. And I'm assuming that's for UK residents.
For UK taxpayers. But you, as the entrepreneur, you benefit from having kind of easier to convince investors, because they have clear benefit, right? If you tap into a UK investment pool, essentially. That's one. Two, there's also an R&D tax refund scheme, where if you were to, if you raise some funds and you actually put the funds into investing in development, so technological development, and that could be defined in many different ways, and you can claim up to 33% back. So if you spend 10K on tech development, you can get back 3.3K, up to 3.3K. Again, so it's very favorable in ways that could make starting a business very easy in the UK, and particularly in startup. So those are my 2 cents, and very concrete, real examples of being able to really take advantage of the friendly UK startup environment.
I love the tax credits. It almost makes me wish I started my company in the UK. Maybe I should reevaluate that. I don't know, get some of that tax credits there. Let's see here. We got Janet Turner. Janet Turner checking in. She has a couple of
Hey.
comments. Janet's doing some things today, but she's tuning in via Facebook. She says, love that making personal chit chat a meeting agenda. That was Sean's tip there about making space to kind of be kind of quiet and think and be present. I know Janet always takes the first 10 minutes of our staff meetings with personal chat. Look at Stacy laughing. I love it. Love you, Janet. Janet says, Sean's loft looks amazing. It does look good. It does look really good here. And then she's also giving me some tax advice as well. Between the two of you, you've given me great tax advice I can't use. Ben, you could properly get tax credits or money for a business startup in Alaska. Oh my gosh. I don't know what's farther, Alaska or London. No, that's great. But Sean, kind of going to you now, we talked a little bit about, and by the way, if you got more questions and comments, please leave them. Hit that like button if you haven't already. I'd love to hear from you. It's always more fun when you get involved. So if you're watching, throw some comments in there. We appreciate it. But Sean, I want to go back to something we kind of talked about before, kind of normally we call them winners and losers, but because we're being optimistic today, winners and really big winners. We'll call this segment winners and really big winners. So coming out of Brexit is what it is. Moving forward, who are going to be the winners and who are going to be the really big winners? Sean.
So the big winners are businesses that were started in Britain. In 2020, over 84,000 businesses were incorporated. That's nearly 14% up over the previous year.
Wow.
So just think about that. Okay, just think about that for a second. So yes, they're small, and yes, there are a kind of perspective. There will be a chunk of those that are people that, for whatever reason, are not employed. They started their own business. They're doing consulting. That may not sustain itself all the way through as they look for employment, full-time employment. However, there is a chunk of those that could be the new Google in the future. There's the likelihood, the percentage of that is. So the winners in this, well, first of all, tech is a winner. And the other winners, and again, I think more longer term, if we mark what you're saying, who's going to be the winners, or you that just for the sake of it? What are you thinking, Ben? 3 years from now, Vivi, what time frame?
Well, let's look at it. Yeah, let's talk in terms. I mean, the beauty of the show is we can kind of take a deep dive.
Can right? we can make it up as we go? Is that what you're saying, Ben?
Yeah, okay, that's exactly it. So give us the short-term winners, give us the midterm and kind of long-term winners. I mean, feel free to prognosticate, and nobody's going to hold you accountable for anything you say. So go for it.
I'd prefer if they did, but it's great because this is being recorded. So that's much more fun. So look, when you look at medical. And there's two things. One, the amount of change that has occurred in our economies globally in 10 months would have taken 10 years. This type of communication is now embedding itself in how businesses are doing business. I have friends that are running business. They're making their budgets by the fact that travel stopped. That's embedded. So the winners are the companies that have adapted in how they do business. The losers are the airlines. The winners coming out of this, and it may be as early as, I'm going to stick my head out there, somewhere July, August, where there may be some freedom out there, are the low-cost airlines. I think there's going to be two personas. The business traveler who hasn't traveled, who still isn't going to travel, but when they turn on their, I am going somewhere and I don't care where, the low-cost airlines could do very well coming out of this long-term. The losers, business travel. When you look at what JetBlue is doing, and I think you've seen that where they've secured gates at Stansted and Gatwick, and coming in out of the US, they have changed their business class model to pay-as-you-go, ultra premium, low flat, like flatbed. That's Robin is an English aviation expert, took over and is CEO of JetBlue. They've already adapted. So the other airlines better figure it out, or else they're going to figure out that they're down about 2/3 of their business class tickets, which affects hotels and everybody else. So the big winners here could be, coming out of this, are low-cost airlines. It could be med tech, fintech, prop tech, and a big reshuffle in how cities empty out in its core, but then refill. And the other winners could be renters. They might actually get back into cities at reasonable rates. Maybe hotels are getting converted into micro studios. So we're going to see a big reshuffle. So summarizing, low-cost airlines, underappreciated renters that moved out may be able to move back in, and communities get rebuilt. So this could be a big rebuild and exciting time for those categories.
Wow, you said so many things there that made me think. But before I ask a follow-up question, I want Vivi to kind of weigh in on some of this as well. What are your thoughts, Vivi?
Yeah, I could try to attack it from a real estate market perspective in the UK, particularly. Actually, there is a boom in real estate market in the UK, except for central London for obvious reasons. But again, speaking about government, there's a lot of government influence, government making decisions that drive it towards that direction. So
is that real estate boom because of central London going into the rest of the country and creating demand, or is it due to other market factors?
Precisely that, and also there's the stamp duty help from the government. So if you buy anything less than 600K, I think it's very low stamp duty, and then also they give you a much cheaper loans as well. And on the other side, so the luxury buyers are not buying into central London anymore. And I've been hearing how they are now buying outside of London, these mansions who nobody wanted to touch before. They're buying that, particularly those that are close to smaller airports. So these luxury home buyers have now one more requirement, which is to fly with their private jet. So Sean, adding to the list of your airlines winners and losers, the private jet runners might be the winner here.
Sure.
Sean, do you see us taking more private jets in 2021, 2022?
The closest I get to a private jet is watching it on YouTube. So, that's about it. So I have no opinion on this whatsoever.
Hearing Vivi talk about it's about as close as I get to private jet.
Yeah. So, but to Vivi's point, I mean, we're probably getting the overreaction from moving out of cities, and this phenomenon has happened, in America and throughout Europe, where I'm out of the city, I run to the suburbs, and so there will be some rebalancing of that as people realize that this too shall pass. I mean, while we're on it in the UK during the plague, people were going out to High Wycombe and staying at some of the best pubs in the world, now 900 years old, where I used to live out there at the Royal Standard. And, they were retreating out to the country. Funny enough, they all went back into town. So, humans are remarkably inclined to return to what they know. So this may well be the overreaction. And then there's something in between. So again, if property prices are the accessibility to cities, where largely cities have grown for a couple of reasons. One, it's where you meet other human beings. You don't meet them in the countryside. And you know what comes out of two people meeting? Some fun and games. It's not that kind of show,
Sean. Not that kind of show.
That. But there's a reason why socially people go to cities. There's job opportunities. You meet people.
Too.
Right. Yeah. Jobs too, Ben. That's good. Thank you. Jobs. And so between jobs, so, the jobs aren't all going to move to the suburbs. So this is we've been overcooked for probably 20 years plus. So this is a rebalancing. And I think that if we think of it in that way, we move forward because there will be new opportunities. The tech escalate. I can't underscore that every company that is hearing this broadcast this today, if they are not engaged in a significant way in modernizing their business, they will fail because the plug-in points have moved up. I'll reiterate this. 10 months of change. Now, forget your 21 days of habit changing. Forget 3 months. How about 3 years? And this is the way we do business. And if your company is not highly tech-enabled, not to confuse with a tech company like AltoVita as a startup, if you're not highly tech-enabled, you're going to fail. So get on the tech wagon, learn, get the right people around you, and figure out the right way to connect in your micro market or your macro market, or else you're going to fail. And that's table stakes today. And I don't care what industry you're in.
A lot of this change that we're talking about is due to COVID. You know, the flight to the suburbs, and then maybe the converse opportunity in the cities, and so the travel stuff as well. But I mean, how does Brexit affect the COVID effect as well, right? So how do they does it exacerbate it? Does it make it worse? Does it counterbalance in some areas? You know, these two things are massive, and they're working at the same time. And I guess my question is, are they working in the same direction, or are they working counter to one another? How do you see that these macroeconomic forces, these macroeconomic crises, and I say crises, you know, that's my own interpretation, but you know, whatever. How are they working together?
This is like getting hit by an asteroid. There's nothing good about this. You know,
hey, you're the move forward guy.
You know, but see, the difference, Ben, is I accept there was a crater and we've blown up. Now we just got to get out of the crater and get on with it. You know, there's no way to rationalize having a pandemic and exiting one of the biggest markets in the world. There's just no way to rationalize that. So, you know, so all I would say is asteroid.
So just speaking of asteroid, I feel like that answer just blew up my line of questioning there. No, but okay. So we kind of talked about winners and losers, and inadvertently we kind of went down the COVID path. I want to talk about winners and losers from a Brexit standpoint. And I want to talk about winners and losers from a geopolitical, right? Countries, you know, what countries and cities are going to be winners and losers, and what industries. You know, Vivi kind of targeted finance as an industry that had a lot of play in it, but I didn't really hear yet winners and losers. So I'd like to talk about winners and losers by industry and winners and losers by cities and countries, if you don't mind. What are your thoughts?
If we kick it off, we are fortunate that, again, this acceleration of change has occurred so fast. So this may be the first time we actually take the notion of renewable energy seriously. It may be affordable. We may be in a position where, you know, certainly solar has become far cheaper to manufacture. I think people's awareness has grown significantly in the last year and a half. Humanity has understood that we're fragile, because at least a number of generations, certainly since the Spanish flu, have not experienced a pandemic, whereas Asia has experienced interruptions that the Western world has not, and Asia has adapted very well to it. So it's a big wake-up call for the West. So that's actually ironically a win for the West, because they actually woke up. So there's sustainability. Oil hit $51 today, which is a good sign. We're probably going to have some shortages of, you know, we're going to probably see some inflation in oil and gas going up as demand comes back, and there hasn't been enough production, so we might see a spike. But at the end of the day, you talk about, and again, I go back to fintech, prop tech, med tech has made huge leaps. Infrastructure, you know, if you look at what's being talked about in the United States, and even to some extent in Britain, we are underfunded in internal infrastructure, and this is a great way to get jobs back in the suburbs and across countries. And the Biden administration looks like they're going to put a lot of money towards infrastructure, bridges, walls, roads, you name it, and more importantly, fiber. And this may accelerate the broadband expansion and the 5G expansion at pace, which, you know, has immense effects to how people bring to market, but also consume data and consume experiences, which then can help the hotel business and logistics. So this acceleration of interconnectivity. So now I'll hand it over to Vivi.
Who are the winners?
Yeah, who are the winners? Who are the winners from a industry level and from a cities and countries coming out of Brexit?
Well, the clear winners of Brexit is obviously Germany, France, Spain. Those countries are not only getting the opportunity to create jobs, because jobs are moving, as we talked about. People are being relocated, so you get actually talent going into EU. But at the same time, again, going back to financial services, a lot of money are moving out of the UK into the continent as well. The banks need to have a very solid base, a lot of capital being put on the continent other than the UK, because they have actually preferred to use the UK before, and that was the massive advantage that the UK had, and now has apparently lost. So that's the clear winner and loser from not only just the job creation and talent movement, but at the same time, actually the funding, the asset-based funding itself. From industry point of view, I mean,
well, let me ask you a question about your country choices, okay, for a second, because there's two things I didn't hear that I was kind of surprised about. That I've kind of asked this question all week long, and I'm kind of sourcing this broadly. One, I didn't hear English-speaking, English-first countries that are not in the UK. Because a lot of people said, well, the UK was kind of the entree into Europe for a lot of companies who, English was a deal breaker for them, right? So they had to have an English first country, and maybe that's my own ignorance. Maybe this is a non-issue in countries like Germany and France, but I sense that it's not. So I'm wondering about Ireland. The other country I'm wondering about is the Netherlands. I'm hearing a lot about the Netherlands. I'm hearing a lot of activity there, but you didn't mention that. Why is that?
So a couple of things. Let's go through some stats in Ireland, and I've been conscious not to promote my homeland, so I'm being just that. So let's look at in the last 6 months, 28,000 families from Britain, largely professionals, moved back to Dublin. Number one. Number two, the population of Dublin is estimated to go up by 33% based on what they're seeing of inbound investment into Ireland by 2036. Third, Ireland has for many years specialized as a result, partially, that was seeded by the corporate tax rate of 12%, and has a anchor now with all the major tech companies and is ranked, I think, number 5 in the world now from a investment rate by capita. Some of that is distorted because it's a tax haven, so it doesn't necessarily correspond to GDP growth as opposed to general financial services and the pass-through. However, the startup rate with incubators, one called the Portershed in Galway, has 300 seats. Cork has similar volumes. Dublin has similar volumes. And now, actually, with the relationship that's occurred with Northern Ireland being a hybrid, has opened up the gateway. And just one other piece with that, I think we can't underestimate the fact that the Erasmus program with students has effectively ended for Britain. So there's even issues with societies such as the Law Society, the Architectural Society. Now, interesting enough, England and Ireland worked on this last year, and I understand there was relationships that were formed where they recognized each other's credentials for the Institute of Architecture as well as the legal practices. So they've found a way to work together, which is interesting. So Ireland is the only gateway into Europe, and has been for tech companies in particular, but also now financial services. And I think it's something like 60% of transactions through credit cards go through Dublin, and so globally. So
Wow.
you got Stripe that was developed in London, payment engines that are coming out of Ireland, more and more consolidation going on. So I don't think it's exclusively Irish. It's about the fact that 5 years ago, for passporting purposes, the banks spread around their risk. It wasn't just there. It was Brussels, it was Amsterdam, it was Paris, Frankfurt, Dublin. So now we're starting to see them accelerate. So, just to go back to the English-speaking piece, I think it's connecting the English speakers with different nationalities because it is the common language. And that infrastructure was put in long before Brexit, and it's yielding dividends now.
That's fascinating. Those are fantastic statistics about Ireland.
Also, we do good whiskey.
And you do a decent whiskey there. Yeah, I'm aware of that a little bit. No, but the other one was the Netherlands. What are your thoughts on the Netherlands? Vivi, Sean.
So the
No,
Dutch.
Sorry, it's a bit overlooked from where I am. Netherlands.
Well, the Dutch market is very interesting. There's a lot of good startups, particularly in concept development, like Zoku in Amsterdam, that Citizen M and others, had roots there. So there's a lot of brand development comes out of there. Their financial sector as well as their technology sector is super strong, and their engineering as well. So I just think it's it's more like the US when you kind of think of it as a unification of states. I mean, Detroit has a certain history. Silicon Valley has a certain history. Places like Dallas, Texas, and Houston are doing incredibly well with startups. Austin, Texas. So there's a diversification of these skills, and that are now attracting concentrations. Vivi's point earlier on, it's not hard to figure out if you got a concentration of experts. It's not dissimilar. Why I listened to just a podcast with Jeff Bezos the other day, and the old story, everybody's heard it, is why did he go to Seattle? He was in New York. Well, he figured he was going to be a tech company, and Microsoft was there first, so he thought it was a good place to steal talent. So that talent is where businesses will grow. And, places like Amsterdam and Paris and Frankfurt and Dublin and London's shortage, Barcelona has a concentration of startups and travel services that are tech-based. That's where people go. And that's where people are going to go to again, because there's expertise, learning, opportunity. I think I'm more concerned about the Erasmus program, where students can't travel freely from the UK. They're putting in the touring equivalent opportunity for students. But we should be investing in education, because that is the way you pull out 7-8 years from now with credible PhDs and engineering and science and good accountants and care people coming out of hotel schools as well. I think we need that, because good ideas come from energetic startups, and that's the future. So this myopathy about thinking that COVID will not end, it will end. And we need to invest in tomorrow as much as we're worrying about today.
Excellent point. We have a comment here that is a lighthearted question. If Boris was to allow Scotland to hold a referendum to leave the United Kingdom, and the Scots win that independence vote, would we call it Scotsit?
I think you own the term there, Alan. You win.
Is this going to happen? Is Scotland going to cede?
I don't have a clue. All I know is that I've had some great parties in Scotland and get to wear my kilt now and again. So that's about it.
There you go.
What do you think about the Scotch, the whiskey that the Scots make?
No. Yes.
I'll take that on. No, it's not as good as the Irish.
Not as good as the Irish.
Oh no, clearly not. No, clearly not.
Man, the whole time I thought you were telling the truth, Sean. And then
us Celts stick together. Come on now.
Vivi, we all know the Scotch is better, but let me ask you about this in all seriousness. Is Scotland going to cede, in your opinion?
Well, they have the option to do it, but they chose not to. So,
We're
I
gonna be
mean,
is that
I
dead?
think it goes along. Yeah, it's a few centuries type of question that that the Scots has been pondering. And I mean, they could leave now if they want to, but they choose not to. So I don't think I can say anything more than that.
Okay, cool. Pierre checking in. Greetings from Geneva and Happy New Year. What's up, Pierre? Good to see you. I want to close with kind of a final thought on this. And Vivi, I'd like to give you the first opportunity to leave us with a final thought.
Well, I think that I agree with Sean. We need to be optimistic. COVID will go away. It will take longer, though. I think it will be longer than 6 months. I think that's what Sean mentioned earlier. Just looking at the math of the vaccination, the rate, looking at the US, they're struggling to achieve 1 million people per day, and the US has 300 and something million people. We only have 300. We have 300 over days in a year, so it will definitely surpass a year before we get there, and not to mention all the developing countries who do not have access yet to vaccination. So yes, it is a longer battle to have to go through, but I see it as a huge opportunity, especially from AltoVita point of view. Anyway, I think Ben, you mentioned to me last time, this type of environment is best for disruptors. So if you have some disrupting idea, I would very much encourage to do it right now, because now everything, for some reason, has become much cheaper, and you can have access to many different things that you could not have last year before COVID. From AltoVita point of view anyway, COVID has made everything accessible. I got to know Ben because of COVID. Otherwise, we would have to meet at a conference in Chicago or something. And the same with Sean, with whom I also met recently. And it's fine to do everything virtually. We don't have to make an effort and fly anymore to form similar strength type of bond that we do now. So I am thankful that this happened, and perhaps, like I think Sean mentioned, the West benefited because the West has now the same wake-up call that the Asians did have already. So be disruptive is probably the one thing I'd like to just leave as a final note.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Vivi, for being here, and wonderful thought there. Sean, would you leave us with a final thought?
I echo what Vivi said. Be optimistic, find the crack, and make it happen. Yeah,
that's great. And I think optimism is always the best strategy. If you think it can't be done, or you think it can be done, either way, you're probably right. So you might as well think it can be done, right? The other thing I would say that's come out of this week for me, having had 5 shows in a row on Brexit, knowing nothing about it coming into it, is that this is a unique time for global mobility professionals and service providers to be leaders in companies. Whereas before, the discipline had been kind of relegated to an afterthought or a reactive capacity. Now it is at the forefront. It is strategic. We are on the news, and we are the best equipped people in the building to handle the problems at hand. And so this is an awesome time to be in global mobility if you are a practitioner on the corporate side, or if you are a service provider who is coming up with new innovative solutions. It is a wonderful time to be in global mobility. So seize the day, be optimistic about it, and be aggressive. That's what I would say. So, hey, everybody, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for everybody that left a comment or a question or a funny joke, or just even a comment, a shout out in the comments there. Thank you so much for that. Hit that like button if you haven't done so already. We have a wonderful lineup next week, including Peggy Smith, who is going to be on and flipping the mic and interviewing me on Tuesday, which I'm super looking forward to. Anyway, so thanks everybody for being here. Thank you again, Vivi Cahyadi, CEO and co-founder of AltoVita, and Sean Worker, the Managing Director at T5 Strategies. Thank you both for being here.
Pleasure.